All right, today is the day, folks. We are kicking off with day one of a 4-week series. And I'm so excited to have Liz Wendling here with us, a nationally recognized law firm sales coach. Liz, you have worked with so many different organizations, and in addition to private clients that are law firms. Tell us, you've written books. Give us a little bit of your backstory for those that haven't watched the webinar yet.
Well, I do work with attorneys and law firms nationwide, and I got my start at a conference when I was talking about how opening was the new closing, and a woman tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're not going to believe this, but just yesterday, our law firm was talking about how our attorneys are crappy closers." And everything I was saying in that talk was about how it has nothing to do with the close, and it has everything to do with how you're leading and guiding someone into a decision-making process. That was 9.5 years ago. And that's what kicked me off into realizing, wow, the legal world really needs these skills. So I work with law firms and attorneys, and I help them convert more of their very expensive marketing leads into paying clients who give fantastic reviews and are very happy to do a great referral. And I teach
Yes.
them what it takes today more than ever, to make that strong impact and that lasting impression, whether you're on an intake call or in a client consultation. And together we trade in the old and tired model and we trade it into a more human and updated approach that potential clients not only appreciate, they notice, maybe not on the conscious level, but they notice that something is different with your law firm. And then
Mm.
the other part of my practice is where I get to have a heck of a lot of fun and and I pretend to be other people, and I do law firm secret shopping. And I go undercover to give law firms that honest and in-depth look at their practice through the eyes of a potential client in real time, when their intake team and their attorneys they are just being themselves and they have no idea they're going under my microscope. And I have so much fun doing it because it helps me to show the law firms where the holes are, where the gaps are, why clients are falling through their fingers, and why so much money is going out the door and going to their competition and not them.
Mm. And for those of you that have not watched the master class that we are so grateful and thankful that Liz delivered for us, go back and watch the Confessions of a Law Firm Secret Shopper. It's a phenomenal master class, tons of tips and tricks and what have you. But for you all here in our membership, Liz is going to teach for us a 4-week series, and we're kicking off today, and we are talking about approach. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect today, Liz, and then we'll dive right in.
Great. Well, when I'm talking about approach, that's the word that I use for it. It could be your methods, it could be your process, but updating your approach today and using a more modern client conversion process is so critical, because a new and fresh methodology winds up creating the value that your prospective clients are craving, and it's also what they need in their decision making process. So today we're going to talk about what can you do, what can you say, so that potential client can hear, can feel, and see something noticeably different in your firm.
Mm.
Because if you really want to stand out and get someone's attention, you have got to stop showing up the same way your competitors do. You can't keep answering the phone the same way every other firm in town and all over the country does. So we're going to talk about some of those that need to be chucked to the curb, and some that can just be slightly refined. I tell people you don't have to dump and destroy everything you're doing. I say that some things need to be taken out forever, and other things can just be massaged, changed a little bit, so it sounds fresh and it feels fresh, and it makes that potential client feel like they're not talking to the same person if they call 3 firms.
Oh my goodness. And I love the word that you use, approach, because I'll just tell you the feedback I get from team members so often. They hear the word system, they hear the word method, they hear the word process, and it feels very rigid. It feels like, we're going to an employee handbook or an SOP or what have you. versus kind of I like the approach, how you are doing what you're saying. And I like that you use the words, what the person heard, what they felt, and when they interacted with you. It
Yes.
it really puts a responsibility. When I hear that word approach, what I'm hearing is presence. You have to be really present when you're interacting with the prospective client. And when you have that, so talk to us a little bit about, go right into it because I
Okay.
could talk all day.
Okay. So your ideal clients, the moment they pick up the phone as to call you and you answer, that ideal client, that potential client assumes they make the assumption that you are just like your competition,
Yes.
unless you demonstrate quickly that you are not. In the eyes of that new legal consumer and any practice area out there, to them, you look the same, you sound the same, you do the same thing, and you probably have similar fees. They're already coming to your firm making that assumption. So why don't you
Mm.
meet them with something different that blows their hair back, that makes them say, wow, I
Uh,
like speaking to this firm, or I like this person already. I like the way they're interacting with me versus the way so many firms are doing it today. Sounds like a checklist. I got your name, I got your number, have your email, I know how you heard about us. And that it just doesn't do anything to knock someone's off their knock the socks off of someone.
yeah, I again, a word that you use, demonstrate, because it's
Yes.
very active, and it really, and blow their hair back is what I wrote down. I mean, think about it. Maybe have everybody right now close your eyes and just think of maybe the past 5 calls that you've made, whether it's for a facial, a massage, get your hardwood floors done, maybe an attorney yourself or something, financial advisor, CPA, placing an order for holiday gifts. You know the things that you've had to do in your personal and professional life. And think about how you felt. Think about how many of them blew your hair back. I love that visual.
And that intake call time is so precious. So how one chooses to use that time can mean the difference of somebody going all the way through a conversation and booking a call, booking a consultation with an attorney, or halfway through the call, they've already written you off. They might talk to you for a little while, but in their mind, they already said, I don't want to do business with this firm. So we have the opportunity to drive that intake call, or the caller is going to drive that call. This
Mm.
is where you demonstrate your credibility, your trust, your professionalism, your ability to move someone through that call. Because we've all been on phone calls where somebody hijacks the conversation. And with a different approach, and when you show up with different energy and intention and different words, it will become very rare that that person on the other end starts to drive the phone call. They can't, because of the way you stepped up and answered that phone, and your
Oh.
intention and your tone and the way you're speaking to them almost shuts them down and starts following your lead versus them showing you how the call is going to go.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, people behave how you train them to behave.
That's
And
right.
tell us, so you said something really powerful. They're already making up in their mind within those first seconds, milliseconds, what have you. What have you seen, Liz, where you know when you're secret shopping, when you're like, I will not go with this. You to call law firms all day long, and you deal with businesses all day long, and you are a sales expert. You're an intake expert. Share with our listeners what you've experienced from firms where it's a hard no for you.
Sometimes it happens within seconds, and I can tell when someone answers the phone and they didn't put down the call from the previous caller, meaning
Oh,
energetically, from the way that they're speaking to me. They sound distracted. It feels distracted coming through the phone. They didn't give themselves 3 seconds to center
oh,
themselves, put down the crap from happened on that other call or something happened in the office, to take the time to make me feel like it's my birthday, like I'm the most important person that they're going to talk to all day. You can feel that in an instant when you are the most important person, or are you just another call that I have to take and try to get you to book an appointment? So it's right out of the gate, that energy, that tone, and that intention. If that's off, I can feel it right away. Another thing that really sends me into a
Mm.
tailspin is when I hear that very typical approach, which is, to me, sounds law firm centered versus client centered. Law firm centered is, let me get all the information for me, to put in the computer, for me to make sure that I understand if our marketing is working. It's too focused on what the law firm needs versus what that potential caller needs. What I need when I call and I say, I've been injured in an accident, or I need to talk to an attorney about an estate plan, or I want to talk to someone about a divorce. And all of a sudden, my personal situation is kind of feels like it's tossed to the side versus making me feel like I'm going to be important in the next couple of minutes. I need your name, I need your phone number and your email address. And it feels like we're going through a checklist versus the best thing you can do for someone is to give them your full attention and get me talking. Because the more your potential client, the quicker they start talking, the more relaxed they feel, the more at ease they are, the more they start looking at your firm as someone who gets them versus doing the checklist.
Wow. So a comment, this just ring for me. A comment I hear all the time that employees say, business would be great, but for the clients, I can't get my work done because they can't stop calling. And so attorneys and or team members, if you feel a little bit of resentment or frustration, like if only the clients would stop calling, then I wouldn't have to, then I could get my quote unquote work done. You need to do immediate hard stop, drop and roll and do a reframe on the mindset and the energy, like Liz is saying, around how people interact with the phones. Because if the clients aren't calling, guess what, people? We ain't got no paychecks.
That's right. Or they may be calling, but the way you're treating them is causing them not to ever want to call again. And that
Yes.
is a very expensive problem. So in those first few seconds, sometimes minutes, it is all lost. An expensive lead says, "Nah, I'm going to call down the next attorney on my list of people to call."
Yes. Yeah. I love it. You said that. Second, I'm a huge fan of sticky notes, right? I will train my team, even if it's a solo attorney who maybe is just starting out and they don't have a receptionist, intake person, what have you. I make them put sticky notes right on the phone. You are now the client service coordinator. You are now the chief happiness officer. You're not the attorney answering this phone. So I love that. Make them feel like it's their birthday.
That's right.
Make them feel like it's their birthday or make them feel like that you are the grief counselor, depending on where they're calling, what their energy is, matching their energy, figuring out where it's at and bringing it up a level, bringing it above. I always tell people your job is to make people are calling into and they have either a crouching tiger or they have a 40-pound bag of heartbreak and heartache and worry and anxiety. And what's the root of anxiety? Lack of information. Your job is to give them information that communicates, I'm taking here, leave your bag of anxiety here on the phone with me and you communicate that with them, or it's your birthday and my job is to celebrate the hell out of you.
That's right. And we know that when people call a law firm, most people are in a state. They're in an emotional state. They're mad, they're upset, they're pissed, they're aggravated, worried,
Confused.
upset, almost exclusively. Your job is to get them over the bridge to contentment, to feeling heard, to being at ease, to feel comfort. And you can only do that with the way you approach them, the way you talk to them, the words you use, and the words you choose. And the energy that you can convey can actually take them over the bridge. And you could do it sooner. It doesn't have to happen at the end of the call, it could be in the first few seconds when you answer that phone.
Mm. So let's talk about approach, a
Okay.
client-centered approach versus a law firm script intake sheet approach.
Okay. So this may come as a shock to some people, but the way law firms answer their phone and talk to potential clients these days is the same way it's been done for the last 30 years, like 3+ decades of the same line of questioning in the same order, asked in the same way. And this line of questioning does nothing to make you stand out. It actually does nothing to shift the way a potential client views you and engages with you. It does nothing to the brain of the prospect to make them say, I really like this person. I'm really glad I called this firm today. I'm already feeling comfortable with this person. I like how they're approaching and engaging me. Now, they might not say this on a conscious level. This is happening on feeling level. They're starting to feel comfortable because of the way that you're putting them at ease. So remember, it's not happening at that big level where they're saying, I like this. This is really nice. This sounds different. They might notice that this is different than the last call that they had. So it's they can't quite put their finger on it, but they know something is different. So today's new and fresh modern intake call needs to sound a little different than the one from 30 years ago. It's needs to be natural and flexible, but at the same time intentional and controlled. And what I mean by natural and flexible, I don't mean that you just wing it. I mean it has to have to sound like you're talking to someone in a natural and flexible way, not a scripted way. And at the same time, the call has a direction. We're going somewhere, and I'm the one that's taking you there. I'm being intentional to get you to the next part of the call, and the next part of the call, and the next, and the next. So did you want to say something, Molly?
Yeah, I was going to say, give us an example.
Here we go. So what I get most of the time is, thank you for calling ABC Law Firm. This is Debbie. How can I help you? And I always say something like, I wanted to talk to an attorney about an estate planner. I want to talk to someone about a divorce, or I was just in a car accident and I'd like to talk to someone about my case. And almost exclusively, I get the very typical scripted, sure, I can help you with that. Can I get your first and last name? Maybe they ask for my phone number in case we get disconnected. Can I get your email address? Maybe a physical address. But always they ask some form of, and how'd you hear about us? That is all client-centered. I'm sorry, firm-centered. It's all about the firm. Now, if it was still 1980 and 90, I'd say, good, keep using that script. But it's not. We are way beyond that. It's not natural. It doesn't sound flexible. It doesn't sound intentional and controlled. So the way to shift that, the way that you can start to sound a little different. So imagine you just called 3 different firms, and you're the fourth firm that somebody called, and you say, thank you for your call. This is let's see. Thank you for calling ABC Law Firm. This is Debbie. How can I help you? I say the same thing. I want to talk to someone about a consultation. Now, Debbie takes on a different persona here. Debbie says, I can help you with that. Again, my name is Debbie. I'm the intake manager, the client coordinator, the client services manager, whatever it is. I want you to credentialize yourself and say, I need to gather some information from you, and then we can get you scheduled with one of our attorneys. So when you credential yourself, a lot happens here. And using your name twice, a lot happens. First of all, when you use your name once, think about a time when we get on the phone with someone, you're calling Amazon or the cable company, and they say their name once. You almost forget it unless you write it down or they have the same name as you. But if somebody confirms it again and said, again, my name is Debbie and I am credentialize yourself there. It adds value and it sends a message to the caller that they're dealing with a pro and someone who can help them, not someone who will take a few pieces of information and then transfer them to someone else. No, you're conveying that the person they're talking to is the person who can help them. So in less than 60 seconds, Debbie says her name twice. She says who she is. She builds some credibility. Sounds very different from other firms. And again, when you say it once, they forget, but you use it twice. Sometimes the client will start using your name. And if that happens and they start using your name, then what happens if Debbie sends a follow-up message? They remember that. Debbie leaves a voicemail message. Oh, that's Debbie from XYZ Law Firm. And it's Debbie doing her job. But because that connection was made, chances are they'll take that phone call. They will email you back. They will call you back. But you've got to sound different to do something different in their brain. So Those few seconds can grab someone's attention. And especially when you let them know with your words and your intention, I'm the one who's going to help you. I can help you with that. So when you say it, say your name and your credentials, it helps them start to realize I'm in the right place. This person's going to be able to help me.
And I love that. Having really, so I have some firms that have, I'm the chief happiness officer.
Yes.
I'm the, director of first impressions. I'm the client care coordinator.
Mhm.
All those terminologies stick out to them. They're like, especially when you have really heart centered naming conventions for your titles
Yes.
versus secretary, what have you. They're like, wow, it's different. That's unique. Like you said, they might not be able to pinpoint it, but in the subconscious mind, it's
Mhm.
planted there.
And you're conveying that you've got the right person. How many times have we called places and we get bounced around, or that's not me, or
Yes.
let me see? No, you want
Yes.
to handle that call. You don't want to give them to someone else. You're handling it. I got you. I do this all day, every day. What can I help you with? That is the intention of that call. And the trick is to get the caller to start talking as quickly as possible and find out more about them and their situation. So you can get their phone number a little bit
Yes.
later. It's okay. I'm not saying don't ask for their phone number, but I am going to say this. Don't ask for their phone number and then qualify it by saying, in case we get disconnected. Can I get your number in case we get disconnected?
Oh, yes. Tell us, I know you talked about this in the master class. Tell us quickly, like what message that's conveying.
Well, first of all, why are you qualifying that? Why do you have to qualify why you need someone's phone number? I use the example of you don't say to someone, can I get your name in case I want to use it? And now, can I have your phone number in case we get disconnected? No, I need your name and your number. That's it.
Yes.
And I'm fine if you want to capture that information, but stop there because you want that person to start talking so that they start relaxing. You can, when someone's relaxed and they're listening to you and they're following your lead, you can ask them any question you want later in the call. You'll still get that information you
Yes.
need to put into your system. Do it in a place that feels natural, that feels a little less scripted and a little less firm centered. It's
Yes.
client centered. And
Yes.
then even asking, how did you hear about us? When you ask me how I heard about you, when I haven't even, I have all this tension bottled up inside of me, and you want to know where this marketing lead came from, that sends a message that we care more about our leads than we do about the person we're speaking to at this moment.
Well, I think that's so great because as you were saying that, and you and I talked about this, I've been paying attention to the law firms that I call. I tracked a law firm. It was 3 minutes into the phone call. They outsource their phones, which please, people, stop outsourcing your phones. It makes me insane. But I mean, nights and weekends for overflow, possibly, so you can say you're open 24 hours with Google. But nonetheless, it took 3 minutes before they even knew why I called. 3 minutes to, okay, so your phone number is 123 1234. Okay, okay, let me repeat it back to you. And how do you spell your name? It was so frustrating. And to your point, when you ask in the beginning for email and how they heard about us, and I'll say this really quickly. As you were talking, I was just thinking, first of all, I'm not going to tell you that Bob Smith referred me because if I don't like how this goes, I don't want that anywhere within my record. So I'm going to say Google. I can't tell you how many reports I look at. I'm like, come on, you just
Right.
told me of 100% referral based business and all these leads say Google.
Right.
Something's not right here. Number
Right.
one. Number two, as you were talking, like when somebody's sharing, okay, well, blah, 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 blah about, oh, you know what? Real quick, we have a phenomenal blog that we just wrote about that or video we just recorded. Let me get your email address and I'll send that to you after our call. Okay, great. Now go on. Tell me more. Imagine that.
Right. And but you're giving them a reason why you need it. You're not qualifying it. You're
Yes.
not saying, can I get your email so we can keep marketing to you when the phone call is over? Because that's what I'm thinking. When you
Yes.
need my email address, before you know my pain, my problem, my challenge, my issue, my dilemma, heartache, or challenge, I know that that means you're already thinking of, how do I stay in touch with this person? How do I keep getting in this person's inbox? that's aggravating, and it drives a wedge between that very person that took a lot to get to call your firm. So
Yes.
that is why approach, if you just start tweaking it, moving things around, this cannot be fixed on a 30-minute phone live session.
Right.
This is something that has to be looked at holistically. Where are we aggravating and irritating people, and where can we change that and start connecting with them? Start making our phone calls feel like it's a human to human conversation, not prospect or a lead talking to someone working at the law firm. Big
Mm,
difference, and it sounds completely different, and it feels different to that person that you're speaking to.
I
We've
love
all
that
had those phone
question.
calls. We've had those phone calls, right?
Yes.
Where you hang up and go, they really took care of me, or that was really great. So, or you hang up and go, I'll never need to call that place again. You
Yes.
don't want that. That's too expensive. If people are leaving, because you know what happens, they take their dollars, and your marketing dollars are feeding the bottom line of your competition. That
Yes.
gets really expensive. Might as well put them in the car and drive them over there, because they're not hiring you.
Yeah. So talk more about approach. What else?
Okay, so asking the question, "How did you hear about us?" We know that that is code for how is our marketing working? So I don't even like that question. In fact, none of my clients use that question in that way, because how did you hear about us already puts a message in someone's brain. We all know what that means. So we want to train their brain to not think of it as a marketing question. How did you hear about us? We all know what that means. And most of us don't even want to answer it. So we do say something like, oh, Google. All right, I just Googled it. But it's not always the case. A lot of times it is another way. When you say to someone, toward the end of the call, middle of the call, I can't tell you exactly where this is, it's dependent on your firm. But when you use someone's name and you say, hey, Mary, out of curiosity, did one of our past clients refer you to us? Mary, did one of our past clients, or did one of our did a past client who had their estate planning done with us give you our information? Anything that makes it sound like, oh, they get referrals, and they get people that their clients talk about them and say good things about them. But what it does to the brain is it makes that person stop and go, no, actually, I think I was at a networking event, or I think I heard someone at a luncheon, and I she passed me her card. Whatever it is, it causes them to think a little bit more versus, how'd you hear about us, Google?
Yeah.
That's it's the same question of when you walk into a store. Hi, can I help you find something? No, thanks,
Nope.
just looking.
You're
You
not
get,
looking.
you
Yeah.
don't get anywhere with that. So when you say, did one of our past clients happen to refer you to us? It's softer. You get to the same place, but you do it with a softer message, but you also get more of the truth here.
Yeah. Yes. And it communicates subconsciously that, we are referral, we are a family, we are a community, we are a tribe because, obviously the only way in is through a past client. Like, oh, I want to be a past client.
Yeah, right. They're so good that they get referrals and people talk about them. This is happening on a very subtle level, but it's
Yes.
happening. It
Yes.
truly, truly is. It gets into that subconscious. And then later on, when the deal is done and you're finished working with each other, and you let them know that we appreciate referrals. It's not so foreign to them. The word referral isn't the first time they're hearing that.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What else? What do we want to leave our listeners with today for this
I
week?
I all right, so we moved around that the first beginning. You want that client to get to start talking. I'll leave you with, this is a much bigger conversation, but I want you to be thinking about empathy versus sympathy. When I am on
Oh,
a mock call, or I'm doing a secret shop, and I was hit by a bus, or I broke my hip in Whole Foods, or I have a cheating husband with 4 babies and I want to get divorced. And I have a really intense, sad, deep situation that I don't want someone to use sympathy. I want some empathy. And a lot of times people think empathy is, I'm so sorry you're going through that. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm so sorry you lost your finger in a boating accident. That is not empathy. What you're doing is you're taking the focus off of the person who needs empathy and you're giving them sympathy. It doesn't land,
Mm.
it doesn't do anything to make that person feel like you understand them. So empathy sounds like not you want to keep yourself out of it. Sounds like you're going through something challenging. How your situation really sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. That's empathy. So I'll throw it out there, but this requires practice. It requires you to unravel sympathy to inject some empathy. And when I'm working with clients, we come up with many different empathetic statements that can be injected. It's not just a one size fits all. You have to be able to feel that person's pain and use what I call appropriate empathy, real empathy, genuine empathy, in the moment empathy, not just something that says, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through that," because it bounces off the person. It isn't felt.
Mm, mm. And so what does sympathy look like? Where, how, talk
Sympathy
to,
is when you say, "I'm so sorry." You
yeah,
didn't cause someone's pain. Unless you are causing my divorce because you're the person my husband is cheating with, then you can say you're sorry. But when you say, "Oh, that sounds terrible," or "That sounds so challenging," your situation sounds heavy.
yes,
What you're going through sounds difficult. And
yes,
that it's a gift you give someone. You give no gifts when you say, "I'm so sorry." Another thing, I see news feeds on Facebook when someone says, I lost my father or my
yes,
grandmother died. "I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry." Instead of saying, "You're," I'd say something like, "You're in my thoughts and prayers as
yes,
you grieve the loss of your father."
yes,
I want to give them that. I want them to feel that. So it takes off getting us off of autopilot and getting into a conversation that's felt, that's heart to heart, not head to head. And yes, it
yes.
takes some unraveling. I'm not saying this is the easiest thing a firm can do, but you fix this once and you'll never, ever have to fix it again. That's the beauty of this.
Yes, and I'm a fan of sticky notes again and
Yeah,
putting them I as you were saying, "I'm so sorry." How often has somebody said to you that they're going through a divorce or they got fired or they got and your first knee-jerk reaction is, "I'm so sorry," and they're like, "Well, you shouldn't be because
right.
it's a good thing." So, whenever anyone says, "I'm so sorry," it makes me go to a place of embarrassment and shame. And
Yeah,
it's like or just it just you feel less than
you do.
versus hey, guess what? You're in the right place because we help people exactly like you every
Mhm.
single day, and you are not alone.
Right.
Imagine if someone said that to you versus, I'm so sorry.
Yes. And "I'm so sorry," I call it a neutral negative thought versus a neutral positive. So "I'm so sorry" can make someone, what doesn't really go anywhere, or it could make them mad, like you just said, or it's neutral and they feel it. And then it goes above that. It's neutral positive. This firm gets me. This person understands me.
Yes.
They must get calls like this all the time. I'm in the right place. But "I'm
Yes.
so sorry" is not going to cut it anymore.
No, no, I love that. People, put sticky notes. It's your birthday. Put that on there. No, I'm so sorry. You're in the right place. We got your back. You're not alone. Reframe your language. And that's what we want you to work on this week because next week, Liz is going to be coming. And what are we kicking off with next week again?
Next week, I believe it is, we're talking about language. So
Yes.
we're talking about language landmines, word bombs, and phrase grenades. And
Oh,
and
perfect.
I call them that because it's language that can make your consultation or your intake call blow up in your face and never to hear from people again. So we'll be addressing that next week.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Liz, thank you for being here. Listen, if you have not watched the master class, go back into the group and watch a master class in preparation for next week. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're sitting here, we are looming on the end of the year. Get your consultation book with Liz to get your confession of a secret shopper started so Liz can support you and tell you and give you that report that is worth $1 million, in my opinion, and get your report so you can start shifting and you can start transforming the client experience right as the director of first impressions. Thank you, Liz. See you
Thank you.
next week.
Okay.